This is an Alpine A110, and it's here in the Angeles Forest in California. Today's video will answer so many questions. Is it as amazing as everyone says? Do you want one rather than a Cayman or an Evora? Is it as amazing as everyone says? And hang on, what is it doing in this country in the first place? All of this and more will be answered on today's episode of The Smoking Tire. But first, a few words from today's sponsor, Kufandy. Guys, we got to take a quick second to thank Kufandy for keeping me looking good in today's video. They sent me this awesome woven polo shirt that is a collaboration Kufandy's done with NASCAR driver Christopher Bell. Check it out. But beyond that, this is a soft, scrumptious polo that remains wrinkle-free for hours of driving throughout the day and is also fur and pet hair resistant in case you're like me and have 4 cats that like to crawl all over you throughout the day. Hit the link in the video description to get my full outfit at Kufandy, and thank you to them for sponsoring today's video. Listen to that. No electronic speakers. No sound actor tubes.
Yeah, right. No tuba from the engine compartment.
Just nicely tuned French 4-cylinder engine.
Just a good 1.8 liter, sounds really good.
Yeah. Zach, I am so excited to be driving this. We've wanted to go to Europe just to drive this for how many years?
8.
There has
since it came out.
Yeah. There has not been a good reason, but a TST fan named Ben has sent one our way, so shout out to him.
Unbelievable. I really thought one day we were just going to have to buy a trip, buy a cheap flight to Europe or something like that, and then go snag one, and it fell in our lap, and I couldn't be happier.
So, why should anyone in America care? Because this car makes me so mad. It makes me so... I drove it all day the other day, and I should have been happy, and I was mad that we can't have it. 2,450 pounds, 250 horsepower, 235 torque, a perfectly responsive dual-clutch gearbox, double wishbone suspension, and I don't feel like I have to give anything up for that.
Right?
I am comfortable. I am cool.
We have shoulder room.
Shoulder room?
Because this car is as wide as a Cayman, but it's much shorter. But it's Miata size, Miata weight, but with actual car comfort.
Yeah. It essentially is even if you're used to a Cayman S, this is 500 pounds, 600 pounds lighter than a Cayman S.
Yes.
Right? And it's got this nice, fat, smooth torque curve. The engine sounds great. And you thought you knew what a light car was, and then you drive an actual light car. And with a Miata or with a Lotus Elise, you have to give stuff up, right, to have a light car. To me, this car, you give up so little.
Very little.
So what are the things that you give up?
Well, you give up storage. We could start and almost end there. The frunk width is fine, but it's not deep enough to hold a standard rolling carry-on. You can't bring one in this car with another person.
This is the GT variant, which you can tell from the tan leather, comes with the fitted luggage. Comes with. We don't have it here, but Ben's got it.
That is helpful.
So you got your fitted luggage, and there are certain cars for which I will adjust my luggage style. This is one of them.
You could do a soft bag and you'd be pretty okay. And then the rear trunk is about Miata size, honestly. It's about the same size. It's got a little curve to it. These little cubbies, you can put them in on the sides. But also inside. There's no glove box. There's no cup holder. There's no door pocket thing. There's a little shelf down there and a little square back here. And that's all you get. Or you can pay $1,000, I believe, and get a sort of conical waffle cone luggage container right here that I guess you could put flowers in.
It's probably useful. But my vibe from this car is because you've got double wishbones. You've got a really rigid chassis with soft springs. You've got this beautiful communicative steering. The paddles listen to you. The sound is great. This is the car where, to me, if you said to McLaren, you need to make a $75,000 car.
I agree. Gordon Murray has one of these.
Yes.
That's why.
That was, after I got over being mad that I couldn't buy one for myself, I felt the urge to email Gordon Murray and just go, sir, you were right about everything. As usual, this is, you know, it doesn't look like much. It's weird and it looks good, but it's not outlandish.
Yeah, true.
Right? It doesn't get any attention here in LA outside of a car show.
Yeah, very, very few nods. I got a lot of head turns. I think people wonder what it is.
Yeah. Oh, wait, here's the tunnel. Hang on. Here's the tunnel. Let's see what we can do in the tunnel. It doesn't sound, it sounds like a nicely tuned 4-cylinder on the outside, but it's not mind-blowing.
No, it's like a Mini Cooper S.
All right, so we'll slow down and we'll go second from 3. Okay, here we go. Not bad. It's a mid-range car. It's 3 to 6 is where you've got that power, but it's really fluid, right?
It is, and it honestly feels plenty fast. Now, the new GT has 300 horsepower. There's also like the R version, which is stiffer and a lot more expensive. But this feels plenty fast to me. I mean, this thing has tons of torque coming out of corners. It pulls really hard. It cooks, dude.
Dude, you honestly, on this road, I think you need a GT3 to get away from this.
Yes.
I went up to Good Vibes the other day, and I was caravanning with a client of mine from the shop that has a GT3, and they were roughly at the same pace.
Well, I mean, this has, the size advantage is great, the weight advantage is fantastic, the way it flows is awesome. And we were up here, 2 weeks ago, as of filming, not sure when this will air, driving a turbocharged Miata, and we said that's one of the quickest ways to get up the canyon. Now you have the same weight, but a mid-engine platform, a little bit better traction out of corners, and mid-engine balance. So, and better suspension. You have double wishbone suspension. So it's all the wonderful ingredients.
When you have a car this light, you can make it do almost anything. You don't need much power. You don't need huge brakes. You don't need fancy shocks. You know, you don't need so many things that bigger, more powerful, and heavier cars need to handle. And well, it's not just about, oh, well, the numbers are the same because half the weight, half the horsepower, like that's the same, right? But it's not the same because from the seat to have half the weight and half the horsepower is such a much better car.
Yeah.
You drive.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. There isn't really a park. You
That's
can
correct.
put it in neutral. It's a true dual clutch. So you put it in neutral in the parking brake, and if you turn it off, it goes into park. But there isn't a park in the way that you'd have an automatic. Also, just real quick before you drive, this steering wheel is the Lotus Evora steering wheel. Do you recognize that? Which is totally fine. These seats, do you recognize them?
Lotus?
Manufactured by Sebelt. They're used in the Emira, also used in the Ferrari sports car range.
They felt like Ferrari,
These are Ferrari seats. They're
kind
basically
of
Ferrari
thinner
seats.
leather.
Yeah.
Sorry, thinner padding.
But they're all, Sebelt makes all the Ferrari
These
seats.
are in the
also.
Portofino.
Yeah.
Okay.
The little leather bit on the door pull, it's not a fancy interior, but they chose the right bits to make nice.
This feels way fancier than a Miata. And this is more expensive, we'll get to that. But just comparing weight, because you think light car, you have to strip out all niceties to save weight. They've
left the niceties.
Incredibly. You're probably wondering, how is this car in the United States if they're not sold here? Well, like a person, a car or a piece of expensive equipment needs what is essentially a tourist visa for non-living things. It's called a Carnet. When you bring the car into the United States or to another country that's not its origin, you're telling the government it will be here for a certain amount of time, it will not be sold while I'm here, and it will not use its accent to get a job and steal your girlfriend and then overstay its welcome. So while it's here, you can drive it around on its foreign registration with the foreign plates, and there's no mileage limit. Good for us.
We got your 3 drive modes. Normal, you don't need. That's the eco mode. Just skip that.
Not that bad. Around town,
yeah,
totally
but
fine.
Hit it again. The idle.
Yeah.
The low, vibraty, crappy idle. Hit sport. Look at the camera vibrate. Hit sport. Increases the idle by 200 RPM.
Yeah.
Whatever that does for efficiency negatively is worth it because now it's smooth.
A funny thing, looking at these gauges before we depart, is that we've been driving this car for 4 days. The menus were always in English, and now they're in French.
They changed.
I touch nothing. You touch nothing.
Well, as I told you, my most embarrassing moment with this car is I had to text Jethro at 6 a.m. and say, how do I change the volume on the radio? While I was driving, I couldn't find it. I voiced the text to Jethro. It's on its own stalk behind the steering wheel, which you cannot see while driving.
You can't.
And I'm like,
you do this.
You have to really bend down to see it. And I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. I'm dumb. Sorry. And he's like, it's French.
Yeah.
The fact that it works at all, you should just be happy.
The fact that you can choose the radio and it doesn't just play melodic jazz at whatever volume it thinks is right.
By the way, you mentioned gauges. And these gauges are small and in a cluster, styled, and you can see them perfectly through the steering wheel.
Well, that's very true. They're set super deep, and yeah, it's like the bottom of a telescope.
And even though they're digital, which sucks, the gauges do change with each drive mode, so you can tell what mode you're in by how the gauges look.
They do, and this brings me to another point, is that the transmission is one place this really shines over the Emira, because the programming is right. It downshifts, like that was a real downshift. That was it! And the gauge is accurate, meaning that like the gauge will jump. We've been in cars where the gauge says you downshifted and the transmission says, I'm gonna be there in a minute. And this is right on the money. That is part of what's so good about it.
A bunch of people have asked me, like, wouldn't it be better with a manual? I have a hard time saying yes to that question. This gearbox is great.
It's a really good gearbox, and you can play race car driver in this, and because it does so many things good. I mean, how much money do you have to spend to get double wishbones in a Porsche in the front only?
That's GT3.
Right? That's GT and Spider, right? Or sorry,
no, those are multi-link.
RS.
Double wishbone front.
Yeah.
Multi-link rear.
Right.
Yeah.
So this has both. This has the magical thing. Lotus gets the same thing right, and you've already talked about why it's so good. The car is stiff, which is fantastic, and then they saved weight in all these weird places. Like the e-brake in this car is just the rear brake caliper. It's not a separate caliper. Saved a little bit of weight, and you can shrink the brakes because the car is so light, which means that the car is even lighter.
Yeah, the weight spiral that we talk about that typically makes cars infinitely heavier can also make them infinitely lighter.
Right.
And so you could go back and listen to the podcast we did with Gordon Murray. You can go back and listen to the podcast we did with David Tuig, who is the project manager for this car. And God damn it, this car makes me so mad.
Well, if the car is light, you can have smaller brakes, you can have smaller wheels, you can have smaller tires. All of those things, add weight or remove weight. And what it does is the same thing I felt in the Miata 2 weeks ago, is the directional change. I don't care how much tire is under a car, how stiff the springs are, how much whatever is on it. If the car is 3,500, 4,500, 5,500 pounds, it just will not do what this does. It will not turn this way, and it will not stick the tire as quickly. It's gonna have to set a lot longer. This thing is just so fun, and it's totally quiet and livable on the highway. Unlike a Miata, unlike the BRZ TS we had. This is a pretty damn livable car for, I don't know, a little tough as a single car, but it wouldn't be that bad. It'd be a fun year, I'd say.
Dude, I can confidently say that if this was available in America, I would buy it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not for everybody. Okay? Like, a Cayman is more practical.
Yes.
And feels a little more luxurious and is still available with a manual. So there's plus a few for Cayman, right? The Lotus is more powerful. It's got like 100 more horsepower. It is faster, and it makes those cool turbo tuner noises, and it's considered more exotic, and you can get it in America. So there's Lotus. Pros.
True.
This, frankly, I'd rather drive it than the Admira, and I'd rather drive it than any Cayman south of a GT4 or a Spider.
Well, this has a frunk, which a Lotus does not.
Right.
And that is a crime for the Lotus because it's a larger car. I don't know why it doesn't have that. The Lotus also has problematic transmissions on both sides. The manual is fun to 8/10, but then moves around when you're trying to downshift, so that's very strange. I also love, something I love about this thing is that the steering is not adjustable. So when you put sport mode, track mode, whatever, the steering weight is consistent. And that's awesome because it's so good and perfect and quick enough, but it also is easy to track straight on the highway that you don't need it to be stiffer. You don't need it to be heavier.
And this car, here's another constant spiral of reducing weight. This car has Michelin PS4S's on it with 20,000 kilometers on them and multiple track days. Even Ben was like, look, this car has worn tires. And I did a rip up the mountain the other day, and we're going pretty good right now, and that is not a problem.
Yeah, I completely agree.
There is tread left, there is life left. With a car like this, you can make a set of high-performance tires last 25,000 miles.
Yeah.
Like, no problem.
Lower consumables.
Yeah. It's reasonably fuel efficient. I haven't gotten an actual measurement. Whatever they say in Europe, I'm sure is accurate, but it doesn't go through more gas than you think it does. Look, God, this car, it makes me so mad that we can't have this. And simultaneously so happy that I actually got to try one. I put this in the same category as the R34 Skyline, where you heard people say it was good, you know, in video games it was good, and you go, that kid couldn't really be that.
Yeah.
And you drive it and you go, oh shit, they weren't kidding. And all these guys in the UK, does Prosser have one? Who's got one?
Prosser does.
Prosser
have,
had one or has one. Multiple journalists in the UK buy them, and it's like, if you've driven everything else and you know what good is, this is it.
Yeah, this is the best parts of Caterham, the best parts of Miata, the best parts of Lotus, and some of the good parts of, I mean, I think it's very close to Cayman other than cargo space. I think it rides more comfortably.
I think it's better to drive than most Caymans.
Yeah.
I think the steering is better than most Caymans. I think the way that it handles a mid-corner bump
it's softer.
Is better than most
And this
Caymans.
car, I forgot, actually has aftermarket springs on it that are lower but softer than what you get on the S or the GT. So Ben said it has better body control. We haven't driven a normal one, but I'll say that I didn't scrape on anything, and it has plenty of compliance and room.
It's absolutely amazing. If you're in Europe and you can buy one of these, you should. You absolutely
really
should. This is a car you must own, and it drives me insane that we can't have things like this here.
I'm so pissed.
I'm so mad. There's nothing about this car, or maybe David will tell us something about this car that precludes it from being sold in America. Is it too low? Is it too this? Does it not pay its emissions? What is it?
Network.
Why can't we sell it in America?
Where would you service it?
Nissan
that would be
dealers.
hard.
In Nissan dealers, probably.
If they are trained up, that might be
what,
part of it.
Or
but
whatever.
David, hopefully David tells us.
But it just drives me so insane that this is a relatively simple, meaning it's not hybrid or electric, or it's passive shocks, and it's just fundamentals, and we can't have it.
And somehow, in this like modern era of 6,000-pound super sedans and whatever, Renault and Alpine were able to design this and produce it. I mean, granted, starting in 2017, but like as simple as can be and lighter than almost anything for sale. It's probably the lightest mid-engine car available.
And you're not slumming it. This is nice.
Look how much room we have.
If we did a 3 or 4 day road trip in this, that would be fine.
Yeah.
And it would not be fine in Elise.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
or Miata, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Thanks to Ben for letting us do this. We're keeping the car at Westside Collector Car Storage for
keeping it forever.
We're keeping it forever. Thank you to you guys for watching. What a treat for Zach and I, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Always fight your tickets on the Off the Record app, available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.